has sent us his apology. I think he will be attending a meeting of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. And in terms of Rule 159 of the NA rules, if the chairperson is absent, then the committee has to elect one of its members as an acting chairperson. So I'm going to open the floor for nomination for an acting chairperson. Can I have hands? Honorable Maseko Jel.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the session for now. I propose the name of Honorable Janji.
Do we have a seconder for Honorable Janji?
Honorable
Niwood. Okay. Do we have another nomination? Any further nomination? I see that Honorable Maseko Jele and Wula have raised their hands. Do you want to say something?
No, sure. No, Chair. I just wanted to tell.
It's an old one.
Okay, now it seems like we don't have any further nomination. I think somebody's mic is on there. In the absence of any further nomination, then may I call upon Mr. Janji to chair the meeting?
Thank you very much, Bonani, Ramano, and good morning to all members and everybody who's joined the meeting. And thank you to members to have us having the meeting going in the absence of the chairperson. So yes, I accept chairing the meeting as a permanent chair. Thank you very much. I'm going to take it. I think let's go straight to it, colleagues.
Acting.
Thank you very much, Honorable On. No, thank you very much, members. I want us to go straight to it, and I don't see the Deputy Minister. Perhaps the DG can lead his team, and so that we are able to receive the presentation. We're supposed to receive a presentation on the implementation of the Sexual Criminal and Sexual Offences Act. DG? Is the DG in the meeting?
Good morning, Chairperson. Chairperson, good morning.
Hello?
Chairperson, good morning. Malema, I've raised my hand.
Come again?
Malema, I've raised my hand from Justice. I'm not sure if you can see the raised hand.
Yes.
I wanted to respond to the chairperson to the issue at DG. I'm acting DDG Court Services. May I proceed?
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. The DG has asked to be apologized. He was hoping to join us from Menko, So he just asked me to stand in on his behalf for the moment until he joins us. But we're ready to proceed with Advocate Praise Kambule doing the presentation on behalf of the department.
Chair.
Just before you proceed, what do you
Chair.
mean? Just before you proceed, what do you mean by Menko? Is Menko his management team?
Yes, he had issues that he was cleaning up soon.
Okay, let me just indicate then we don't have a deputy minister here, and in the absence of that, the DG is supposed to be here. He cannot prioritize his management meeting above this meeting of the portfolio committee. It's even worse in the absence of the minister or deputy minister.
Chairperson?
Yes, Bonan.
Yes, I see Mr. Dogma Shavani on the platform.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, he's just joined us, yes.
Yes, good morning. No, I've been here even when the nomination for the chair was happening. Chair.
All right, sorry about that. Thank you, Gigi.
Yeah, good morning, Chair. I just wanted to place it on record that I was here even when the nomination was open, but there's a system problem here. We keep on being cut off. And certainly I wouldn't have absented myself when a report of this nature is being presented. Chair and honorable members, we are here, and me as the chair of the intersectoral committee, made up of various government departments, will not want to take much time. I'll ask Advocate Kambule to present the report prepared by the department and the other departments that we work with. Advocate Kambule, can you please take the portfolio committee through the report?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, DG. I would like then to get the assistance for the presentation to be flighted, because what has just happened is that soon before the session started, I got kicked out of the meeting, and I've been trying to get through. And right now, I'm holding my cell phone to get to be able then to be connected. So I'm still trying then to get my connection back.
Bonan, are you able to immediately flight this? Because we don't have time to waste in this meeting. And I hope Gambole will indicate how much time she will need to do this, because the document has been sent to us. Are you able to flight?
Yes, Chair. I'm going to do that just now.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. So the presentation is about the performance that has been done by the different reporting stakeholders, as you will see them in the first slide. So we'll be covering all the areas of reporting, but we have changed a little bit at this time so as to align our reporting with the GBVF National Strategic Plan. And it is our intention, Chair, that we will come to Parliament then to present the amended national policy framework on the management of the sexual offences matters, which we have been waiting then for the promulgation of the Criminal Law Related Matters Amendment Act and Amendment Act, and now it has been promulgated. So we'll be dealing with all those issues that are there. So, of course, all the reports that that Parliament has received have been approved by the DGs and the heads of the institutions. And these are also the reports that were adopted by the DGs Intersectoral Committee before then they were tabled in Parliament. And the departments that have made the reports are those that are on the screen. But I would like also just to mention that in terms of the Act, DBE, DHET and Legal Aid South Africa, as well as the Department of Traditional Affairs, are not required by the Act to provide the reports. But at the request of the DG's Intersectoral Committee, they are providing their reports. You can take me to the next slide. The next slide then shows us the different pieces of legislation that are relevant to putting down the incidence of sexual violence in our country, and also then the different obligations that South Africa has signed. If you can take me to the next slide. We have seen recently, starting from 2018, the rise in the political will in matters that relate to gender-based violence and femicide. Of course, right now we have the Presidential Summit Declaration against GBVF, which I may say, Chairperson, it is the first in Africa, South Africa, to have, it is the first in Africa for our country to come up with a declaration against the GBVF. It shows then the seriousness that we have as a country in bringing down the incidence of GBVF in our country. So shortly after then the signature of the Presidential Summit Declaration by the President, then the Cabinet then set up the Interministerial Committee on GBVF, which has been tasked then to give political oversight in the implementation of the National Strategic Plan on GBVF. So, Chairperson, now the National Strategic Plan, it is actually what I can say now, it is the Bible for all of us as the stakeholders, ensure that we implement it. And it got all those 6 pillars. So in this presentation, I have tried then to align it with the 6 pillars, moving slightly away from the key reporting areas that have been set by the National Policy Framework on the management of the sexual offences matters, which is that policy that I said that we will be bringing it then for the committee. We will amend it. We are in the process. The draft has already been done. We will be bringing it to Parliament then for approval. Thank you. Can take me to the next slide. We cannot move with this presentation without making an indication of the Parliament's commendable pace that they have taken in ensuring that then the 3 GBV bills that were introduced by the minister in August 2020 are prioritized. And this is one of the matters that I think that it left a soothing effect on the women of South Africa who marched on the streets in 2018. And we have them now. By now, there are already laws in our country. And of course, then there's also the regulations relating to the sexual offences courts, which is one of the issues that women were crying for, to say that they wanted the sexual offences courts to be a statutory offences, that is to be statutory sexual offences courts, that is to be recognized by a piece of legislation. And this was also done, and the minister then released the regulations relating to the sexual offences courts, and this document was approved in February 2020. If you can take me to the next slide. We do have, Chair, collaborations then to implement the legislation. The Directors General Intersectoral Committee on the Management of the Sexual Offences Matters is the committee that is established by the Act in terms of Section 62. And of course, then it has the National Technical Intersectoral Committee on the Management of the Sexual Offences Matters, which I chair, and the DG's Intersectoral Committee, it is chaired by our GG. And if you go down, then we have the national footprint then of the committees that are responsible for the implementation of this act, and the chairpersons of the provincial technical committees are also the members of the National Technical Intersectoral Committee, so that they are there then to represent the issues, the challenges that each and every province is experiencing in terms of the implementation of this legislation. If you can take me to the next slide. But I may also just add, Chairperson, to say that as soon as we have the National Council on Gender-Based Violence, maybe this picture will slightly change. If you can, okay, go on the next slide. Thank you. Now, how big was the problem during the first COVID financial year? This was one of the periods that I think the entire globe experienced, the pain and the loss of people. And I must also say that, Chairperson, that even myself, I lost my mother during this period. So it is a period then that made then the labor force to do its work with brokenness, because of the losses that we experience, not only in our family situations, but also at the workplace, going to work and finding an empty chair. So this then, all the outputs that we are going to be delivering, I would like then the chairperson just to note that the performance was done at a time that was actually an unfortunate for the entire globe. If you can take me to the next slide. Now, if I may start then with the Gbv Command Centers, they experience a hype in the number of the calls that they receive. As you'll see from the slide, that it was an increase by 65.2 of the calls that they receive. And with the SMSs, its message shoot up to 80.2. But then they also reported that some of these calls were calls that were received from people who were experiencing the anxiety that of the losses, the job losses, and seeking advice then from the Department of Social Development. But then we see a different scenario with the designated health facilitators that are established by the Act in terms of Section 29, and that requires then the Minister of Health to designate healthcare facilitators for the purposes of collecting, of providing the PEP services to the victims of sex crimes, and also conducting the compulsory HIV test of the sex offenders, and also conducting the HIV test for the victims who have been exposed then to sexual violence. So, but then there was a decline of 17% during this time, and we anticipate that it might have been caused by the anxiety that was there, people not wanting to get close to hospitals for the fear of contracting COVID-19, and also for the regulations that were there that were then pushing people away not to come closer to the hospitals. If you can take me to the next slide.
Yeah, just as you go to the next slide, it's not meant to pressurize you, but I just going to request that our interest will be on implementation. It's fine to emphasize and reflect on other matters. At the end of the day, there's something we want out of this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Now, when it comes to our courts, we have, you see there that we had an unprecedented rise in the number of registered sex crimes, and we experienced an increase by 78% as compared with the previous financial year. And if you can see then that that also with the registered new rape crimes. So the reason that I'm extrapolating the rape offences, it is because we have learned, Chairperson, that out of the family of the sexual offences that we have in the country that are also prescribed by this act, rape is one of the offences that always takes tops, and it's quite a concerning matter because the rape is the most serious sexual offense. So we experience a rise by 76.3, and also of the statutory rape going up by 2.775, which is actually, if you round it, is 2.8. And this is a serious concern because this is the time then that there was a lot of restrictions on movement because of the COVID regulations, and we had a increased visibility of parents at homes. So one is concerned as to how then the statutory rape could go up in the presence of parents who were, many of them working from home. Then from this one can deduce a confirmation that sexual offences in South Africa are more rife in domestic relationship. So people in South Africa, women and girls and boys in South Africa are not mostly raped by strangers, by the people that they know. So it's a matter that the committee needs to note. And we experience then, and also a rise then in the rape charges the rape charges against child sex offenders. We have been seeing this trend now going up of the number of the child sex offenders rising, and it is also a concern that even during this time that we experience an increase by 22% of children who have committed not any kind of sexual offenses, because of this we extrapolated only the rape charges. They committed rape charges and rape offenses. So and the youngest of them, it was 10 years, and then we had then the oldest at 16. So it's a matter then that is quite concerning, because what it means is that for us here in South Africa to be able to put an end to GBVF, the focus needs to be in the family. The poison is in the family. We need to rehabilitate our families and ensure that then there's a resuscitation of the values of respect for the girl child and for the female population. Now, if you look then in terms of the performance, there was a decline in performance as reported by the NPA, that then the cases that were finalized, where they dropped from 5,000.4, that is from the previous financial year, to 3,349. And this then can be explained because of the stop and goes that we were experiencing at our courts. They were shut down because of the COVID-19 detections, and also the losses that we experienced of the employees who succumbed to COVID-19. Then the top three with highest number of rape cases, not sexual offenses, is Bloemfontein, Wynberg here in Gauteng, which is Alexandra, and also Paarl. The other thing, that's why I am still on this slide, then SAPS then came up with their statistics that showed a decline in sexual offenses of reported sex crimes of 3.9. But this, when you are looking at it then, is that the reason that we can come up with for them to experience then the decline, and for the courts to experience an increase of 78% of the cases that have been registered. It might be that with SAPS, cases are reported. With us, then we are registering those cases. It might be the indication that then, because of the restricted movement of people, then SAPS was able then to get the suspects, and the rate of apprehension was quite high. Hence, it was the number of registered sex crimes also shoot up. If you can take me to the next slide. This slide then shows us then the top courts, the top 10 courts with the highest number of new rape cases, and you will see that there's Bloemfontein and the Alexandra coming, and Paarl, and a number of courts. And I would like just to say to Chairperson that the reason for us and to collect the statistics and just to take out then the top 10, it is because we wanted to identify the areas where then they have a problem of sexual violence, so that then we're able to shift our resources to where they are needed. So we come up with interventions, and these are the interventions that are managed by the National Technical Intersectoral Committee that I am chairing. So for Bloemfontein, we have already started to work then with the provincial forum of Free State then to identify what is it that is making them to have this increase. So as you are seeing there, that the number of sexual offences courts, that is the MATSO courts, have been increased there to 3. And it's a matter that we're looking at even with Alexander, that they reported that they have an incident of the SOS that was not functioning, which is the matter that I will be touching on in this presentation. So this is what then all these top 10 courts are then considered by the National Intersectoral Committee in terms of their performance. And then we also make the chairpersons to come back and report it to us as to what they have done in terms of reducing the incident of sexual violence at those courts. If you can take me to the next slide. These are the sentencing patterns in the TCCs and the national conviction rate as reported by the NPA. If you see that even during this difficult period, NPA was able then to achieve a life imprisonment sentences, 141. But this is the statistics of the cases that are attached to the TCCs. So what it means is that the life imprisonment sentences might be even more than 141. And we're seeing there that they also receive a number of victims who attended the TCCs during this time. It was 29,593. And then the TCC's conviction rate had a slight decline by 73.9, but then the national conviction rate then shoot up to 75.8. Now, coming to legal aid also registered a decline in the number of sexual offences. It was by 1.5. If you can take me to the next slide. Chairperson, it was a time here where we experienced an accumulation of cases for various reasons that were related, of course, to the courts not functioning at different times and intervals of the national lockdowns. So we accumulated a backlog of 31.5 in the district court. That is, this is where it is standing by June 2021. So this is the recent. And then with the backlog cases, then in regional courts, then it increased to 74.8. 0.9. But yesterday, I would like just to mention that yesterday I received then another statistics that was showing that as at 31 January 22, the regional courts, then the backlog was reduced, it has been reduced to 60.6, which is actually, if you round it off, is 61%. So the national average backlog then it still stands at 44, but I think that with this decrease, it might also have gone down. Now, the Minister of Justice then established the Court Optimization Committee. It was during this period with all the JCPS cluster stakeholders, including the judiciary, for the purposes then of coming with ways of bringing down the backlogs that were actually shooting up. So from this committee, there are outcomes that were achieved. First, the action plans were developed by the different stakeholders working together. And from these action plans, then a decision was made that the case backlog framework be developed. And the Department of Justice took up that responsibility. So the draft framework for the management of the backlog and priority criminal cases in regional and district courts has been developed. And of course, we still have the backlog courts that are providing support. And we'll also then put an emphasis on the judiciary now to begin to increase their performance in compliance with the directive for the performance of judicial functions that was published by the Chief Justice on the 28th of February 2014, which actually then places a minimum standards of performance and the turnaround time for the life cycle of a case, that it limits it to 9 months, that a case must not be in a role for not more than 9 months. And also it also stipulates that the courts must sit for a minimum of 4.5 hours per day. If you can take me to the next slide. Now, because we know, Chairperson, that sexual violence occurs mostly in domestic relationships. So as a department, during this time, we started, and it was in November, we started then and introduced the 100 days rapid result initiative. And we decided that we'll be able then to kill 2 birds with 1 stone if we focus it on domestic violence, so that we're able to catch the incidence of sexual abuse in domestic relationships. So at the beginning, then we piloted it in 14 courts, but as we were moving on, then the other courts had to move out because of the time that they lost because of the stop and goes that we're experiencing with the COVID-19 detections that would lead then to the shutdown of the courts. We took them out. So by the time that we were finalizing the project, only the 8 district courts were able to reach the final line. So from these courts then, we succeeded then to finalize 2,704 DV matters within 100 days. And this project is a project that involves all the stakeholders, and the purpose of it is to say that let's do the impossible. Let's see how we can do what we have been thinking that is impossible. So it's a project that removes the waste from all the service points to ensure that there's a seamless referral system and the support services are intact so as to encourage the retention of the victims in the system. So we experienced the 98 success rate from the 8 courts that were participating, and that then made then the department then to establish the minimum performance, the performance minimum standard of 90 days for the cases of domestic violence, that they must be finalized within 90 days. And we also then amended the integrated case management system so as to accommodate this minimum standard. So in 2020 also, then the two deputy ministers, that is one of justice and police, then they initiated a collaboration between the NPA and SAPS Forensic Science Lab. And this was to address the challenges of the delayed release of the DNA reports by FSL. So that task team was established between the NPA SOCA unit as well as with the SAPS FSL. And if you look at the next column, then it is the performance that they have achieved. And this is something that is quite groundbreaking in terms of the number of reports that have been released then by these 6 labs working then with the NPA. They achieved 6,799 reports, and they also then I had just to take them just to show that now they are also increasing the level of finalization during the period 17 to 23rd of January. 1,774 reports were finalized, but then we still have then the 31,377 cases that they are still dealing with. And from this exercise, something powerful came out of it, which is quite commendable. 314 potential serious rapists were identified. So what it means is that now the cold cases that have been there for a number of years now will be able to be resuscitated through this intervention. And Chairperson, there's another thing that we did during the COVID year. We also learned that our regional courts then were flooded with the applications for divorce that were coming from different families. So we decided then that we needed then to introduce the 100 days rapid result initiative, working with the judiciary. And we piloted this project in Limpopo at 14 pilot courts, 14 regional courts there. So they were able within 100 days to finalize 824 divorce backlog cases. And now we took the project, gave it to the regional court president, and requested them that they roll it out to the different provinces. If you can take me to the next slide. Chairperson, Article 13 of the GBV Presidential Summit Declaration says that all services offered to survivors of gender-based violence must be free from secondary victimization. So this is one area then that says to us that it actually says that the victim of sexual violence, when they come to the court system, it doesn't matter. When they come to the criminal justice system, they've got special needs. So because they have special needs, then they will require special services, and those services then will require special skills for them to be delivered appropriately. So this is one then of the interventions that we came up with, so as to ensure that then we are reducing the incidence of secondary victimization from the service points. If you can take me to the next slide.
So yeah, just before you get to the next slide, just to indicate that you are now at slide number 16 and you have 10 minutes left, 16 of 38 slides. So you'll have to find a way how you'll deal with everything else in that 10 minutes.
So we got the infrastructure that is offering the victim support services. As you will see, the victim-friendly rooms, the SAPS was able then to increase by 6 during this time. The shelters also was increased by 6, which is an intervention that was done by DSD, so as to bring, because there was a need for shelters. So they did that work, which was quite commendable, because it was not easy to get resources during this time. And because of the fact that many places then businesses were shut down. So also then we saw the DOJ also increased the number of the macho sexual offenses caught by 8. If you can take me to the next slide. The next slide, Chairperson, it is just to show that as the chair would know that we have Section 55, capital A, that got promulgated by Parliament, it got promulgated in February 2020. So this is the provision then that seeks to establish then the statutory sexual offences court. But what I can say here quickly is to say that the department has been experiencing challenges in terms of implementing this provision, because it is a provision that says that the minister, subsection 1, subsection B, the minister must designate, now I'm bringing it to the level of the regional division, must designate the magistrate court as defined in section 1 of the Superior Courts Act. And the magistrate court then, in section 2 of subsection 1, subsection B, then it says that then the minister may create a regional division. And from that regional division, there must be a court that is established for each regional division. And the regional court then has one or more places of sitting. So what it means is that in the country then, we have one regional division per province, so meaning that there are 9 in the country. We have 9 regional courts, because there's one regional court established for each regional division. That brings us to 9 regional courts. And then section 55, capital A, then says that it is that regional court in terms of the regional division that must be designated. And then, so what it means is that then that regional court has got then the places of sitting that are attached to it. So the sexual offences courts then are expected to be established at the places, at the designated regional courts. So if you can take me to the next slide so that you can see what the problem is. So the next slide then is talking about the consultation. So it says in this provision that the minister, when exercising his power to designate, he must do so in consultation with the Chief Justice and also after consultation with the NDPP. And it states very clearly, says that if a court for the regional division is to be designated, the Chief Justice then must consult the judge president and the magistrate, who is then, whom we call the regional court president. So it creates then the levels of consultation. The minister is consulting the Chief Justice, and the Chief Justice in turn has to consult then the judge president and also the regional court president, and thereafter then it sends the letter of concurrence to the minister. If you can take me to the next slide. What we have experienced now is that the letters, the minister sent then the first letter to the Chief Justice, the acting Chief Justice. It was in September, and it was followed then by the 2 reminders, that is on the 28th and also in January. We have not yet received the letter of concurrence, and we don't really know. Is it because of the fact that the Chief Justice has its long process of consultation? So now, as a department, we will be approaching the Parliament, the committee, for the possible amendment of this provision, so as to see as to how is it that we can do to make it more practicable, because as it is now, we have not established the section 55 capital A sexual offences courts. You can take me to the next slide. The next slide is talking then to the support services that are offered by DSD, working with the civil society organization. We cannot exclude them from the process, that is the civil society, because they do provide excellent work. If you can take me to the next slide. And this is the slide then for the regulations that were also presented before this committee for the sexual offences. But they provide then that the basket of support services before testimony, during testimony, after testimony. And they also now incorporate support services that are for persons with mental disabilities, as you will see them there. If you can take me to the next slide. And this slide then, it is showing then the commitment of the department to ensure that we establish a disability-centric court system. We develop the national strategy on the universal access for persons with disability, and then we establish also the minimum standards, and thus far we have upgraded 66 of the 75 targeted courts. And this is the basket of the support services that we are saying each and every court that is aligned to the minimum standard should be providing. And we also provided then the training, then using the Handy Hills Guide for access to justice for our frontline officials, so that they are able then to detect and to be able to respond to each and every type of disability. If you can take me to the next slide. Now, in terms of the resources, then we have, there was a decline. We have noted a decline in terms of the resources. As you will see it in this slide, then the court intermediaries going down by 29, and also then, but then if you look at other departments, there has been an increase. The FCS officials going up a little, doctors also up, and also the nurses going up. If you can take me to the next slide. And of course, it is during this time that we had then the appointments of 166 magistrates, and this then increased the gender parity, because now with the female magistrate, we have actually moved to 51.6. If you can take me to the next slide, which is something that we women in South Africa are appreciating. Now, in training, this is the training that has been provided by the different stakeholders during this time, which was not quite easy. If you can take me to the next slide. Now, coming to prevention. Prevention is just one area then that we need to roll up our sleeves so as to ensure that then we stop it before it happens. So, but we saw during the COVID season, the DCS coming in and providing a number of interventions. They have a pre-release settlement that they have established, and this is an intervention that will be helping them to implement the criminal and related matters amendment, which requires the full participation of the victims during the parole board. So they've already started something that is for that 1,765 victims participated in that. And they also then took their offenders to the non-therapeutic program for sexual offense. NRSO, then there was a decline in terms of the clearance certificates that we had, because chairperson, it is not the NRSO that goes to people, it's people who apply. And during this time, as we know that the labor sector was largely non-operational, so that is the reason for the decline in the number. So, but then something powerful that we also experienced, DCS submitted 15,988 historic convictions, so as to ensure that then they don't leave their centers without having been registered in the register. If you can take me to the next slide. The next slide then is about then the interventions that have been done by the department in terms of increasing prevention in the sexual orientation and gender identity. So we received 37 new cases, but what has been done is that the National Intervention Strategy now has been aligned with the GBVF NSP. If you can take me to the next slide. The next slide then is a depiction of all the public education that has been done through various platforms of media. So, but we saw legal aid coming with commendable output, 696 community outreach that they did on constitutional rights and obligations, and also Department of Traditional Affairs coming up with 3 events. If you can take me to the next slide. Now, Chairperson, we cannot stop GBVF if we do not put our focus on the economic empowerment of women. So this is a pillar that the Department of Women is responsible for. And this is the performance that they have done here. They established the GBVF response funds, and they also then developed, they are in the process of putting together the training program that will be empowering women so that they are able then to stand on their ground and not to be dependent on their partners who are abusing them. If you can take me to the next slide. Now, this Article 5, is about the amendment of the legislation, which is also one of the performance of this committee. When this committee was passing the 3 bills, it was actually contributing in the implementation of the Presidential Summit Declaration. So this is the number of bills then that were put together. DSD coming and presenting then the Victim Support Services Bill that was approved by Cabinet, and also amending their Older Persons Older Persons Act. And we also see here that then the Cyber Crimes Act becoming operational, of course, beyond this reporting period, but I felt that I need to include it here. So it's a number of pieces of legislation that and bills that got amended, acts that got amended, and also new bills that were also developed, and also DTA coming with the customary initiation bill. If you can take me to the next slide.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Kambule. Thank you. You don't need to go to the next slide. Your time has expired. Thank you very much. I did walk with you. Honorable members, I want to come to you. You have received this presentation and gone through it, and Ms. Kambule also, even though she did not finish, has just taken us through the presentation. I want to invite you to engage with this. Honorable Ngola, Honorable Velma Nivot, Honorable Yako, Honorable Swart, Honorable Horn. In that order. And the last will be Honorable Jelly.
Thank you very much, sir. Let us welcome the presentation from the department. There is only one issue from my side, Chair. They are saying the actual plan is that GBV cases must not stay in the role for more than 9 months. But at the beginning of this year, when conducting oversight, we have actually found out that there are sexual offences courts where the recording machines are not working. Of course, resulting to postponements of matters, which actually defeats the purpose of having matters complete within a space of 9 months. But it doesn't look like there is a concrete report on what then becomes the turnaround time to ensure that these MRT machines are properly working so that justice can be delayed for victims of GBV and sexual offences. Then what then becomes the turnaround time for those machines to be back on working? The second thing, Chair, is what was presented as a reasoning behind the machines not working was that the person contracted for the machines, blah, 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 their contract expired. The question now should be, why did the department await the contract to expire before it contracts another person or before it extends that particular contract? Why was the contract allowed to expire such that there is a gap between the expiry of the contract and the new person contracted? Because this thing is having a very negative effect in the dispensation of justice. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ngola. Honorable Nivo Drachen, I have noted your hand as well, Honorable Breitenbach. You in the list?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. and good morning to everybody. I have a number of questions, so if you could just bear with me. I will start on slide 7 in the presentation. Slide 7 says collaboration to implement the act. And then there are 3 bullets or 3 sections. And then it starts with the internal stakeholder committee and the national stakeholder committee, and then the 9 provinces. So in the report, it says that that first collaboration with the DGs for the financial year, it's under discussion. So 2020, 2021. So the DGs did not meet, and I'd like to know why that meeting was not held. Like not even on Zoom, not even a Zoom meeting, because this is a very critical matter, and it's very concerning that the people in charge did not bother to meet. And then when we go to the 9 provinces on the same slide, can we get the report of what the 9 provinces discussed, the challenges that they face, the different challenges they face in their areas? Yeah, can we get that report? And then slide 12. Slide 12, I see it says under TCCs, it says conviction rate for 2020, 2021, it's minus 73%. So minus 73. So why was it a minus? Why is it a negative number? I would like to understand that. I would assume that it would be a positive number. And then I also would like to know, in terms of webinars, the department and the deputy minister knows that there are a lot of webinars that happen. Are people with disabilities included in those webinars? Do they have access to those webinars? If you could respond to that, please. And I am a bit concerned when I read about the designation matter. I am quite concerned about that, because you said in section 55, capital A, you require amendments to fast track that process. We have just worked on the 3 gender-based violence bills. And if I remember correctly, there was no mention of this aspect of the difficulties in section 55. And now you're going to bring this for amendment. I'd like to understand why this wasn't picked up and why this is the case that we face today. I might have missed at the beginning of the presentation, you said the department does not need to report, for example, the NPA and that the other agencies like the NPA, etc., can report themselves. You don't report for them. But I mean, with so many children, so many school-going children who are pregnant, and we can consider it rape of minors, and that mustn't be reported. I think the department should demand reports from the other agencies or DBE, especially in terms of rape of children. And in terms of the intermediaries, I saw that on one of your slides, there's a decrease. You've noted a decrease, and there are different reasons for the decrease: COVID, available, ill health. That's understandable. I would like to know what is being done about the situation to implement this regulation and to ensure that intermediaries are available. And just a moment. I'll leave it at that. There's just one thing that I would like to say in terms of sign language interpreters. It's always a sensitive and a thorny matter. And I would like to plead with the department to continue working with the organizations of disabled people to make sure that the interpreters are there in court, that those interpreters are the right fit for the victim and for the job at hand, especially in terms of sign language. It's not always easy to communicate and to bring forth such matters as, as a sexual attack or violence. So the language use must be, the interpreter must be at such a competent level that the victim is comfortable in expressing themselves. And yes, there, the social workers and social auxiliary workers that are available who can assist in interpreting. They're not just out of nowhere. They've been trained and have experience for many years. And they will assist especially with the deaf people who did not go to school or who don't, who've been isolated from the community. And that will be very important for those victims. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Yako.
Enkosi Chairperson. Chair, I think if a person would listen to Ms. Kambula's presentation of this report, you'd honestly think that it's all sunshine and roses, and everything is working according to plan in the department. And had we not gone to oversight, and had we not seen for ourselves what the situation is at the courts, we'd honestly be believing that things are as they are, that what we pass as laws translates to reality in terms of the functioning of the Department of Justice. And I'll make an example. We said on one of the slides that we have high cases of sexual crimes that are perpetuated, especially in the Western Cape. But when we went to the Western Cape and we saw how the court system works there and how infrastructurally it's not practical to do anything for either the magistrates or the judges or the prosecutors, nothing can be done. Can we honestly sit here and say that we are giving capacity to courts to do the work that they are supposed to do infrastructurally, never mind the police system leading up to that phase? And then on slide 14, Ms. Kambula spoke about a very good story of DNA reports that have been successful, and we acknowledge that. However, can we honestly say that in every rape case, we do a proper rape kit for a victim that's been violated sexually, and that report does not disappear along the system leading up to prosecution, and which is hampering and which is emboldening perpetrators, rapists of sexual violence to actually do more crimes because they know they will get away with it. So for me, what I saw personally with my own two eyes of the Department of Justice does not translate to this report. And I would want and wish that when officials come and do a report to the committee, they are as truthful as possible. We're not saying that these numbers are false. However, it needs to depict the reality of the situation, because if I am a victim of crime, especially sexual crime, I need to know that I'm safe. I need to know that my word is heard, and I need to know that it will be expedited very quickly. However, it does not seem that our courts have the capacity, neither do they have the infrastructure to do the work that they're supposed to do. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Yako. Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Acting Chair, and thank you to the department for the updated report. I have a number of issues which I would like to raise. First, I do want to appreciate the report, but I definitely, Chair, don't believe we've got the full picture of the devastating impact of sexual offences. And whilst the department and the other entities represented here are doing their best, I think there are massive issues which I would like to raise. First of which is the issue of underreporting. And I'd like to ask the department, it is estimated by various research that only a third of sexual offences are reported, which would then indicate that the statistics should be much, much higher. So I'd like the department to comment on that. And various reports state that there are a number of reasons why there is underreporting. And I'm going to just enunciate some of my research so that we can just comment on this and maybe come back to us as to how to address this very important issue of underreporting. Firstly, it's reported it's a lack of confidence in the system, in particular the police and the courts. Secondly, the fear of intimidation by the abuser, the offender themselves. Thirdly, the fear of not being believed. Fourthly, the desire to be stigmatized as being associated with rape. Fifthly, the fearing of secondary victimization. Now, the department has done good work in this regard, but I'm concerned when we see the figures for court intermediaries are down. And we understand that, but that is a massive issue when it comes to underreporting. And then, of course, another issue that has been raised in research is the challenge of accessing police stations which are situated far away, particularly in rural areas, and then the treatment by the policemen. Obviously, we've got in the urban areas, we've got the victim support rooms and that which are very commendable, but these are some of the issues. And yes, I appreciate the basket of support services which the department has mentioned, but we're still having this very high level of underreporting. And I would think that aligned to that is what the advocate also indicated, was that a lot of these sexual offences, rape, take place in the family environment. And I think that adds to the issue of underreporting, the impact on the family. So I'd like some commenting on that. The second issue, which was raised by President Ramaphosa in the State of the Nation report, was the reduction in the number of outstanding DNA reports. Commendably, it was at 210,000, which in itself in April 2021 was disgraceful. The President said it's now 58,000. The figure given to us today is 31,377, which is still high, but we are thankful that what the department indicated, that as a result of the testing of cold cases, a number of, I can't believe this figure, 314 potential serial rapists have been identified. Yes, on the one hand, that is good. But secondly, had these tests been done years ago, those serial rapists would have been prevented from being serial rapists. We would have picked them up immediately. So it's a double-edged sword there. But I want to ask specifically, do we know when that 31,000 will be reduced? That's another area that I would like to raise. And then lastly, Chair, with your permission, I'd like to comment on and ask the department, I think the very important slide, and maybe it's just a word of advice for future. Clearly, when you've got limited time for your presentation, you want to focus on the challenges that you're facing. And that's your second last slide. And I think that slide, we need to engage with the department. And because here we've got a number of issues which are very, very critical for us, Chairperson, from our oversight function. One of the challenges highlighted on slide 36 is 85 faulty sexual offences systems. Now, the members have indicated on the oversight they picked up faulty systems, but here we've got 80 faulty systems due to expired tender to provide maintenance and support. And it was seen on the ground here, 85. How can that be? How can that be possible that the department allows that to happen? And we need to monitor that. Secondly, the issue related to SAPS, challenges in delivering capacity building sessions, the need for more forensic science labs to address the backlog. These are ongoing issues. The NPA, challenges there due to repeated court closures. Now we hope, Chairperson, as a last comment, that we've learned lessons from the hard lockdown and the impact that it has had on the criminal justice system, on the dramatic increase in sexual offences, that this lesson has been learned going forward. So, Chairperson, with those brief comments, I'll leave it at that and allow other members to engage. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Swart. Honorable Horn.
Yes, thank you, Acting Chair. I want to align myself with the comments by other members to the point that it would seem from the presentation that the full picture is not shared with this committee. And in that regard, I would firstly want to ask the question about how we must go about the difference in figures around newly enrolled sexual offences between slide 10 and slide 12, where in slide 10, the department gives a specific figure, new registered sex crimes in courts, 7,400 in the 2019-20 year, and then 13,558 in the 2020-2021 year. But then if we turn to the bottom of slide 12, Legal Aid South Africa has taken ownership of the defense of in excess of 20,000 new sexual offences cases in both those years. And that is a marked difference. I think that must be clarified. Who are we then to believe about the numbers enrolled if we accept that Legal Aid South Africa are not even assisting all of the accused in sex crimes? Then, Chair, in respect of the DNA reports, this is one of those difficult situations where we, of course, must be appreciative of those reports finalized, but that can't mean that it is an uncritical applause, in the sense that, firstly, we must remind ourselves that it is absolutely unacceptable that we came to a situation where in excess of 30,000 DNA investigations had to be ring-fenced and then prioritized. And then, given the fact that this is historical, outstanding DNA reports, then we must ask, given the fact that only about 20% have been finalized, what is then the status of those still in process? What is the time frames by when we can accept that all will be finalized? And then, given the information or the arguments offered by some speakers in the debate yesterday, we must also ask, what is in the figure of let's say, DNA samples that has been filed after the ring fencing of this cohort on which is reported? So if I understood the arguments yesterday, the problem is nowhere near being solved, in the sense that a vast amount of new DNA requests have been filed after this historical backlog has been ring-fenced. And as a matter of fact, because the historical backlog is being attended to, and it should be attended to, the difficulty is that nothing that is in hand or current are at the moment being attended to. And so we must ask, what if that is indeed the case? And if that is the case, what is then the plan of action to ultimately get to a situation where DNA is not something that we all know will take years on end to be processed? And then lastly, Chair, also in respect of the incompleteness of this report, I mean, it is not good enough that we have the first portion of the report largely dealing with sexual offences, and then very, very interestingly, the next moment, the report is about the reduction in the backlog of GBVF cases, whilst we're not afforded any information as to the status of the role and the backlog role in respect of sexual offences. So in that sense, it is something we must frown upon, be unhappy about as a committee, and we must insist that we also get that information from the department. Thank you, Acting Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Hon. Honorable Maseko Jele.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And good morning to the colleagues and the department. Chairperson, I only have, I think there are 5 questions that I have for Umam Kambule and the team. Let us just say, Lord, Chairperson, we note the report, and I think I have the same feeling as my colleague that I just feel like it is still not incomplete, and we will appreciate that next time when the department come with another presentation, at least we are also giving more details, particularly, Chair, on the issue where they are saying they are still going to draft a framework for the management of AMA backlogs. I thought that maybe they would be coming today and tell us how are they going to deal with them in details. But now, because they're saying in their presentation that they're still going to work on that draft, I think it's not to us. It's not sitting well, Chair. Would like to see that coming to us very soon to be able to deal with that matter, Chair. And also that draft, it must come with the time frames, the timelines telling us they are doing this within this period and they will be done with whatever amount. Because if they are putting it like this, it does not say anything. It does not even give commitment from their side. Coming to the second one, Chair, is on the issue of the National Technical Intersectional Committee that is chaired by the DG. I think, Chair, we must note that when we were visiting doing our oversight a few days ago, one other things that we have noted, it is the officials, some of the officials who are not committed in attending meetings. And these meetings are very much important. And if the officials do not attend the meetings where these plans are being tabled and also making commitment when it comes to implementation, I just want to find out to the DG, what is the plan that they have in making sure that these team members that will be part of this technical intersectional committee that will be sharing. I want to find out what is going to happen if it seems and there are complaints that they are the ones who are hampering progress on this matter of implementation. Because, Chair, we have noted that committees, there are so many committees that are established, but these committees at some point they become a hindrance in the progress on such matters. This is a very important matter, and then we want to see it, Chairperson, happening as of yesterday, seeing progress. I want to know about, because we need willingness, Chairperson, and commitment from all these people who would be involved in this. I think women don't have any patience anymore on this issue, Chairperson. So I want to understand from the DG, do they have any consequences management plan when it comes to making sure that people own up to their promises and deliverance of issues? And my issue it's even more when it comes to other members who are not even part of the department, because I believe this committee consists of other departments. So I want to know, is there any plan to make sure that things will be monitored and there will be progress when it comes to the deliverables, Chairperson? And then on the issue of the sexual offense courts, some of the courts that we have visited, particularly in Mpumalanga, Chairperson, one thing that we have noted, in the machines that my colleague Honorable Ngola was talking about, it's even happening in Gauteng, Chair. It is worse, Chairperson. I think it's an issue that needs attention, very seriously so. The rooms, friendly rooms that they are talking about, Chairperson, some of them are really not friendly as they should be. Because the ones that we saw in Mpumalanga were very small rooms. Even the children themselves are not able to stretch themselves in those rooms. So I'm not sure about older people, the women, older women, Chairperson. So I think we must make sure that when we talk about infrastructure for these sexual offences courts, we're talking about spaces which shows decency, which shows that we are serious in making sure that taking this matter serious without Chairperson doing things for the sake of doing. Those rooms, they should be capacitated. They should be given. They should be given the finisher or the space that is needed. It shouldn't be a small room. People they don't even have what is it, the aircons. So I think the DG and the department, Ms. Nkambula, through you, Chairperson, they must revisit. And there should be a standard. It shouldn't be that when you go to Gauteng, they are much better. But when you go to Mpumalanga, when you go to other areas, far areas, you find something that is not a satisfactory, Chairperson. On the issue of prevention, Chair, which is the second before the last. On the issue of prevention, I just want to find out what is the department going to do in assisting the families, particularly of those rape victims, or the families, because Mamunkambule mentioned that most of the rape happens in the families by the people that are known to the victims. What is the program in making sure that you educate and you support families for the sake of prevention? Because if we don't have a program that goes to the families, it is, and now we want to prevent this at the stage where it has happened. I don't see us winning this one, Chair. Because she also mentioned the issue of resuscitation of good values and all that, good family values and values also in the community as in general. So I want to know the plans. You know, Chair, I wished that this presentation, when I was thinking of we are going to be giving a presentation in terms of the implementation of these bills, I thought that maybe we're going to have, you know, a presentation, just a bulletin that says on this area we'll do 1, 2, 3, and this is our plan. We'll do 1, 2, 3 on this one, and this is our plan. I think next time I would be very much happy, Chair, to get that, because if we have a presentation of this high level, even the women, ordinary women, cannot like Chairperson, relate to this presentation, because it's for me, somebody who went to school, but my mother or my sister who's there who did not go to school don't understand this thing. So my plea is that can we have something where we say we know about the technical committee, we know about this, but tell me on the backlog, this is what is going to happen, and on victims, this is what is going to, on prevention, this is what is going to happen. If I can have that. Lastly, Chair, It is on the issue of the Department of Women on women empowerment programs. I think this matter cannot only be left on the Department of Women. We get women everywhere. In our plans in the department, we need to get a feel that even here in this department, we do have programs that assist women, empower women, even the women advocates, women lawyers, they have a problem themselves, Chair. I think when we were all listening also to the interview, when Judge Maya Judge President Maya was telling us that they don't even have that sexual policies, harassment policies, Chair. Even if maybe I'm just saying in a lighter note, but they have said they've got something later. But if those issues are not addressed within the department, we are doing things for others. Let's start home, and get programs that empower women within the department. And those programs must link with the Department of Women. And I would like to see, lastly, Chairperson, the plan where both those two departments, our department and the Department of Women, actualizing their programs or the programs that is within the Department of Women, talking to what we are talking about today, and where they are working together in making sure that there is progress and implementation of that which we have already done. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Jele. Honorable Breitenberg. Hola.
Hola, how are you?
Good. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I took my hand down because I have been more than covered by my colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. DG and your team, can we have concise responses to the issues that have been raised by all the members? You certainly have been taking notes on all of these issues. I think let's get back to you, and I will allow the members, if there are going to be critical follow-ups based on your responses, as a quick thing before we wrap up. Honorable, DG. Is the DG with us?
He has just joined, Chair. I think he was kicked out of the meeting.
Yes, DG? Can you hear us now? So he gets kicked out when he's supposed to respond. Can in the meantime somebody from the department respond, Ms. Nkambule? And I want concise responses.
Thank you, Chair. First is we welcome the questions, but then I would like us to move from this premise that the presentation that we are making right now is for the performance of a number of departments that are in the initial slides. So it's not only about the Department of Justice. The reason that it is made, the presentation is made by the Department of Justice, it is because of the fact that the Act places a responsibility on our minister to table the reports that have been submitted to him by the different ministers. So we have then a team of the different stakeholders who are here. We will then be taking the questions that relate to their performance. And also just to put an emphasis that it is not about the three bills that the three amendment acts that have been that have the three bills that have been promulgated. So I would request then the team to take their questions, and then thereafter I will be responding to the questions of the department. Over to you, colleagues. Let me start with the NPA. We'll request the NPA to respond to the questions, particularly the ones that relate to the DNA and also the issues that relate then to the TCCs and the witnesses. Advocate P.S. Smith.
Good morning, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable Members. This is Advocate P.S. Smith. Actually, my colleague, Advocate Bonnie Karigamu, is also online. I can deal with some of the questions that were obviously involving the NPA. In relation to Honourable Nivo Drachen's request or question rather on slide 12 of the TCCs, the 73% as indicated is actually, it's a typo. That could have also been reflected as a dash. So the conviction rate for the TCCs in that period was actually 73.9% as reflected in our report submitted to DOJ. So at least it wasn't a minus 73%. So thank you in that regard. In relation to the questions on DNA, obviously as reflected in the report by my colleague, Advocate Kambula, the DNA is a joint initiative between the NPA and FSL subs. So in relation to the process of the DNA being analyzed and finalized, I would suggest that SAPS FSL would be in the best position to answer that question. In relation to Honorable Mr. Swart that had the question of the 314 potential serial rapists, that is a process that we did purely by identifying on the reports that we received from FSL at head office here at the NPA, after which we channel it to the different DPPs so that they are aware of the fact that we've identified in the reports potential serial rapists in order for those cases to be sort of like pulled together, but more so if it's cross-divisional, then the process of centralization in line with the Criminal Procedure Act needs to kick in, which needs to be implemented. So for that reason, we informed our colleagues that those cases can be prioritized accordingly. And it just needs to be stated that we've commenced with that exercise as from October last year in 2021. So from 2021 till the end of 28 January this year, which is outside of the reporting period, but is to show to the honourable members the progress that we've done in this regard in relation to the finalization of these reports. What I can also state is what also will put this into perspective, that this initiative was implemented as from October 2020. So by the end of this reporting period that we are talking about, end of March, we finalized 444 reports that we received from NPA, from FSL. So after that, there was a considerable increase in the finalization of reports, which were channeled to us and then channeled to the DPP officers and prosecutors to absolutely ensure that those cases receive the necessary prioritization in the court system as well. In addition to the DNA, that I think this is an ongoing process in relation to other questions that might have popped up out of that. And we are in the process of focusing on that to ensure that these cases receive top priority in the court system as well. I hope that I've covered all the questions in relation to DNA that I can answer possibly from the NPA side. Thank you, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members. Thank you.
Who's next?
Thank you, Pierre. Can I now get the response from DSD, particularly in connection with what are the initiatives that the department is doing so as to reach out to the families?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, honorable members. As the Department of Social Development, we do contribute to a number of prevention programs or initiatives in working with families and communities at large. The first one that we do education and awareness campaigns using the radio platforms to reach out to families and communities, and we are dealing with the issues of gender-based violence and femicide. The second platform that we use, we organize community dialogues. We go to, we looked at about 30 hotspot areas. We have train and deploy volunteers that are going on a daily basis to those 30 hotspot communities, and they conduct community dialogues on behalf of the sector, and they are also picking up issues of referrals. They do refer communities to services. The third intervention that we do together with civil society, we also roll out parenting programs. We've got different parenting programs that focuses on issues of gender-based violence. So with civil society, we do roll out those parenting programs in those specific communities that are affected by issues of gender-based violence. Thank you.
Are you done, Ms. Ngambule?
No, thank you, Chair. I almost got lost in the connection. And now I would like then the Department of Basic Education to respond to the interventions that they have made to reduce the teen pregnancies.
In all of what you're doing, they are responding to the specific questions that have been asked here. Am I correct?
Yes, yes, Chairperson. Department of Basic Education. All right, then I think that I'm not sure as to whether they have, because they promised to come. Let me just to respond to the questions that relate then to the Department of Justice. As I have said, that it is a multi-sectoral implementation of the legislation. So it doesn't take the department only to ensure that then we put down the incidents of sexual violence. So first then with the issue, I will start then with the burning issue of the SOS. As you will see it there, it is reflected on the slide that relates to the challenges. We highlighted it there as a challenge to say that then 85 sexual offences systems got broken. And this 85, I would like just to say that it is 85 that is an accumulate, are the faulty SOS that have accumulated from the time that is 2020 up from the time that the contract expired. So the question is, why has the contract, why as a department, we did not renew the contract before time? So this is the question then I will give it to Mr. Malema to respond to. Mr. Malema.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. May I proceed? Chair, can I'll attempt to answer a few of the questions that we've picked up. I got it from the DG that it has been big, all of us. We've been experiencing, but we've noticed. I'll sort of first, we really happened to previous service contractors contract expired, and we started the process appoint a new service provider on time. We experience in the supply chain processes, we discovered like at the end of the process that the bidders did not qualify. We started the whole process again, and we had another problem. Chairperson, can you hear me now?
It's better now, but you're breaking up a lot.
Yeah. Yes. I was saying that that's part of the problem we were also breaking. But I was saying the DG then took the decision to get the exemption from Treasury to then appoint a service provider at the beginning of the year in January for 2 months. But we've subsequently got a further extension for 12 months to actually cover all the courts. So as soon as we've issued out the circular during the course of this week, the courts will then have access for maintenance of both the CRT machines, which are the court recording technology. It's meant for recording the proceedings, as well as the sexual offences. So we regret to inform the committee of what happened, but we are now having the system back in circulation that we have appointed. When it comes to this, very mindful of this matter, we continue to work with service providers, accredited service providers, so that we appoint competent people when it comes to the proceedings in the courts. So we keep databases per province. Some courts have databases that are specifically for the courts, but we tend to share across the courts, across the provinces, so that as and when people with disabilities require services, we are able to assist them. On the poor state of facilities, chairperson and members, we accept that some of the facilities in our courts are really not up to scratch, especially for sexual offences. And we'll appreciate that this problem is created by the fact that we had to adapt existing court buildings to be modified to suit the new legislation. And in many of these courts, you'll find that they were actually not designed to have sexual offences. So we've really tried to do our best in terms of doing the necessary modifications. But really, in some of the courts, it's very difficult to actually comply with the regulations by having all the things that are detailed, because the facility itself amenable to modification because it was not paid for that. But when you look at them able to comply, because first court was actually I'll move over to another aspect relating to intermediaries in the department. Indeed, your observation and our articulation.
I don't know. It's just frustrating.
We do not have sufficient.
It's breaking up all the time.
Intermediaries, correct?
Malema.
I know specifically in how.
Mr. Malema.
We've been.
You can't even hear me. Mr. Malema.
Working with ad hoc intermediaries, but we have subsequently
Mr. Nkambule, can we just stop Mr. Malema? We can't proceed like this. You please pause there. It doesn't help us in any way for you to continue speaking, because you're just breaking up all the time. Ms. Nkambule, can you just summarize everything else so that I come to a close? I see Marty van Eden. I don't know which department she represents. Marty? You've had your hand up for a long time. Now it, oh, okay. I think we have a problem here today, colleagues. Ms. Nkambule?
Chairperson, I was taken out of the meeting. I am back now.
You were not taken
I would
out.
like just
You have a problem as justice in the way your system works. It's making it very difficult for us to follow you. At least you have been better than others, but now you yourself, the same thing is happening. It seems that the cyber attack thing has not left you. It's still with you. So you can imagine all of the courts and everything else under you would have this kind of problems that we're having, just connecting with you. It's making it difficult for us to follow how you respond to these issues. And I don't know, colleagues, what you feel, because I think it would not make sense to just continue when we're not in a position to understand what whether the department is responding to the issues we have raised. Brigadier Mwabe, before I give the members, what do you want to say?
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm from the South African Police Service. I'm the acting component head of FCS. There are questions regarding DNA that I want to refer to very quickly. I think the questions were asked by the Honorable Swart, I think the Honorable Horn, and the Honorable Jele as well. The one was the availability of rape kits, right? And the continuity of possession and whether documents get lost, right? As it stands, we don't have a problem in the police with the availability of rape kits. That's number one. And number two, we have the system that has been put in place in the police to make sure that we monitor each and every province. At any given time, they can tell us how many do they have at a certain province. So we don't have a problem with that. And then number two, the one of the whether documents get missing. We don't have a big problem now because everything is digitized. From the time that a rape kit is being used, is on the system until it gets to the forensic science laboratory. So there is no need for paperwork. So in other words, once they've finished testing at the forensic science laboratory, there's no need for you to go to forensic science laboratory to check, because the system will tell you at any unit at FCS that rape kit, the result is ready. So we don't have a problem with the losing, of documents. There was one question, I think it was also asked by the Honorable Horn, whether we need additional FSL. As it stands, no, because the issues of shortage of personnel, especially the analysts, was addressed at the beginning, at the 2020-2021 financial year. That's why we're able to deal with the backlog, right? But Honorable Chair, if I can just explain just a little bit on the backlog and the ring fencing, because it seems we nearly not in line with what our understanding is. The backlog that was ring fence was dealt with separately from that 220 going down, right? But we did not stop attending to the new ones, right? Because it would have created a problem that we deal with the backlog. By the time we finish with the backlog, we have another backlog. So the one of the new that the DNAs that we're still receiving attention, while that one, the backlog that was ring fence, was dealt with at the same time because of the capacity. Because among the issues that led to the backlog was what they call the consumables, which has now been dealt with, finalized, right? So with the current members that we have, they are sufficient that we can push and finalize the outstanding bed log, right? In the meeting that we have with Forensic Science Laboratory, I think the last one was around about December, they are telling us that the bed log, before May, the bed log would have been finalized. In other words, we'll be dealing with a new one, right? And then I think the last one was regarding the issue of prevention on GBV and sexual offenses, right? The Department of Women, Children and People with Disability, we're sitting on the same committees with them. Even when we're dealing with the issue of the National Strategic Plan on GBV, we're sitting with them, we have meetings. In other words, when we drew the National Strategic Plan on GBV, we were with them. On several occasions, we meet with them, we deal with these issues. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you. Velna.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I'm Advocate Lambley or Vilma Lambley from Legal Aid South Africa. There was a question between the difference of the stats on slide 10 and slide 12. I think it was from the Honourable Swart. I would just like to clarify and reiterate that Advocate Kambule said at the beginning. The presentation is from some back feedback. The
Hold on, Vala.
Okay.
Can Mr. Malema mute, please?
The presentation today that you see is made up from reports from different departments. Different departments measure different aspects, and that stats does not necessarily speak to each other. On slide 10, I'm not quite sure, it does look to me like it is SAP's stats. What SAP stats or what stats is referred to there is sex crimes registered at court. So I'm not quite sure how that reporting works. However, what I can say from legal aid side is what we must remember is that we count cases or people that we represent. So if there's one case with multiple accused, we will count each client that we are helping, and that could explain the difference. Furthermore, we count how people approach legal aid. So a person might have been on a privately represented, ran out of money, but if he or she then approaches legal aid in the financial year 2020-2021, we will count it as a new case for us because we've granted legal aid in that year. And that is why the stats of legal aid will always look different from, for instance, registered sex crimes at court, because we're not talking about a registered sex crime. We are talking about new persons that we are representing at court. This could even be a person that's gone through the process being represented by a private practitioner or by themselves and then apply for legal aid on appeal in a sexual offences matter. And as I say that we have, what we are seeing specifically in our big centres is that there are multiple accused in these type of offences, and then that we will count each person that we are representing in these cases. I hope this clarifies.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I just check with honorable members if you have got any urgent follow-up or a suggestion about what you have just heard in terms of us going forward? Honorable Swart, and then followed by Valma.
Chair, I'm sorry, I didn't hear everything. I'm not sure to what degree the issue was covered of under-reporting to SAPs in particular. Whether we could get a response about that. I'm sure they are aware of it. The estimation that only 1/3 of sexual assaults are reported and what as a collective can be done to address that. Thank you.
Palma?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. There was a question to Department of Correctional Services. I'm not sure if they're on the platform. Perhaps we'll keep it for when they come next. And then I'm not sure who deals with this issue of the forensic social workers. I have in front of me the number of FCS, the family violence centers versus the number of forensic social workers. And there's a high number of centers, which is good, but a very low number of the social workers. So for example, in the Western Cape, we have 257 family care centers, but only 20 forensic social workers. So I would like to know this low number of forensic social workers, how does that impact on the burden of the workers and the work that they need to do, the staff members? And is it possible to have more forensic social workers so that there is a balance, a kind of balance with the centers? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Jelle.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think I still did not get the issue of on the issue of the draft of a framework for management of backlogs, because now we're going to hear from each department. So we need to get that plan, Chairperson, very soon. That is the one. And then the second one is the issue of the consequence management on the issue of progress on this issue, since they are different departments. How are they going to handle that? Because it has to be, I don't know, it's very, for me, I don't know how they are going to manage it, but I want to hear about it so that we know where to go to when something is not done. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Jelle. I want to ask the department, but we have a problem with the leading department, the coordinating department, Justice, in terms of responding. They seem to be in a hole and not being able to assist. I hope they are in. Ms. Nkambule and your team, can you respond to those follow-ups?
I'm in, Chair. My
Thank you,
profuse
Chairperson.
apologies with the network as well.
Okay. I will follow after DG, Chairperson. Thank you.
No, Advocate, you can proceed, please.
Thank you, DG. I would like just to respond, that is in addition to the response that has already been given to the question that was raised by Honorable Swart, and that related to the underreporting of sexual offences. This is a global problem, underreporting, and all the reasons that he mentioned are the reasons that we are all aware of. And when we were developing the regulations relating to sexual offences courts, those were the matters that were considered. When we were building the catalogue of the support services that we need to provide the victims, so as to encourage the reporting and to ensure that when they come into the system, they experience that care, that privacy. They don't testify in front of the in the direct presence of the perpetrator, and also children are offered the services of the intermediary services and so on. So it is meant to do that so as to increase the confidence of the victims in the system. And I would also like just to say to the committee that the concept of the sexual offences courts is homegrown. It is a concept that other countries now are learning from it. There's also another country that will be coming to learn about the concept of the sexual offences court and all the models and the support services that we are providing. So, but it is just a matter of us then as the different departments to ensure that we clean up the referral system so as to ensure that when the victim gets to the police station, obtains those support services. And as we know that the SAPS then has introduced these victim-friendly rooms so as to have that encapsulation of the support services that are offered so as to retain the victim in the system at all the service points up to the stage that the victim comes to court. So we still experience then the early exit of the victims because of the fact that we have those different service points that we need then to clean up. And it's a matter that because it is also an indicator that is in the NSP. So we are intending then to ensure that we have all those support services offered at every service point so as to increase then the confidence of the victims in the system. And as you will see there from the report that we have presented is that during this COVID, the first COVID financial year, we had an increase of 78% cases that get registered at our courts. So meaning what? That a lot of sex offenders were apprehended during this time. And when there is an apprehension of a sex offender, it means that there was a report that was made by the victim. So this is just one of the issues. What I'm saying is that we are not yet up there, but we are doing those efforts to ensure that then every case of sex violence is reported. And the other thing that we have noted, whilst I am still dealing with this one, is that it is the issues of loyalty to the perpetrator, the fear of being excluded from the financial benefits and so on, because many of the sexual offenses in South Africa occur in domestic relationships. So some then do not report because they are scared of going out. And what we have done as a department is to introduce what we are calling the safety plan for the victims of domestic violence, so as to ensure then that they plan their exit, because we don't have a law yet in South Africa that forces them to go and report as it is in Canada and other countries. So with us here, a victim has to make a decision as to whether I want to go and report or not to report. But so as to stop then the incidence of femicide in our country, the safety plan then helps them to plan their exit, to decide as to who should I be reporting to, who are going to be my rescue persons. If the violence occurs in my house, what's going to be my exit route and end? So, but these are the issues that we have introduced so as to ensure that then the victims then do the reporting. And the other that I would like to say, which is a document that has been produced by all the stakeholders that are reporting here, we put together the risk assessment tool. And the risk assessment tool then, it is intended to make the victim open the eyes of the victim so that he can see the risk factors, because some of them, they go to police to report and then they disappear from the system. So the risk assessment tool then, it asks them 10 questions that will make them to see the value for them to be retained, to stay in the system.
Ms. Nkambule, I'm dealing with follow-ups that are very specific now. Please respond to the specific follow-ups.
Okay. The other one then, the other question then, it is about, it's because I was also kicked out of the meeting, chairperson. So I might not be knowing then the questions that you are relating to.
Thank you. So if you don't know, then please don't respond generally. So maybe give to the DG to respond.
Chair, there are some, I think the part that she covered is some of what I could hear from this side. I think some of my colleagues are here, the acting DDG for court services, Mr. Malema. If Mr. Malema, you're able to deal with the other questions.
Mr. Malema has a bad connection. I've stopped him from responding because we can't follow him. Mr. Smith, where are you from? The department as well?
Good afternoon, or still good morning, Honourable Chair. I spoke earlier on. I'm from the NPA. I would just like to assist in relation to the question of Honourable Member Swart in relation to the underreporting. It is indeed correct that there is a massive concern in relation to the underreporting of GBV matters, which we've also picked up at our Tutuzela care centers. Hence, we specifically target throughout the year public awareness campaigns to be committed and specifically focus on the issues and challenges in relation to underreporting to convince people to come forward and report. Therefore, we've also noted when we do the 16 days of violence against women and children campaign public awareness that usually in a Q3 period, which is the October, November, December period, we would have an increase of between 20 to 25% in relation to matters. So for us at the DCCs, we've got a constructive program to specifically focus on underreporting in our public awareness campaigns. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any last words, DG, that you want to raise? Honorable Valma, is that
Thank you very much.
Hold on, DG. Honorable Valma, is that another follow-up? Because I just want us to wrap this up and find a process of a way forward. Might not be helpful to go on like this.
It's not a follow-up, Chair. It's just a request to the committee, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say that gender-based violence and femicide is a very, very serious crime. And it's, for the past 2 years, it's been increasing. I want to request the ministers or deputy ministers to annually be present, especially when we discuss the implementation and the report to this act. I mean, everybody's connection is bad. I know if the deputy minister was here, he would have responded immediately, but we need to have proper responses. Maybe some of the questions have not been answered yet. For example, my last question. So I want to ask that the ministers, or at least the deputy ministers, specifically when we report on these matters, that they be present in the meetings. Thanks, Chair.
Chairperson.
Yes, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I think I have the same, I want to echo the same sentiments with my colleague, Honourable Verma. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. DG, as I give over to you, your final comments, but I think we're going to wrap up the meeting with an understanding, and the committee will assist us on many of the issues. Firstly, from members that had made a point earlier on about whether this report speaks to reality on issues that they have interacted with in their own oversights and in their constituencies. And there would have been a number of questions. So there is a need for a follow-up on this session. And when we do that, Honorable Nivo and Majele suggest that the Deputy Minister prioritizes a meeting in that regard. You on your side would also have been having a very bad network that did not help in the meeting. Yes, DG?
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to the honourable members. Just maybe briefly, the two issues that I want to give an assurance on that we are attending to and we are giving them priority is the backlog issue and the framework that the colleagues have to finalize. That I want to assure you that by the next time that when the Deputy Minister or Minister is available to have the engagement with the portfolio committee, we should be giving progress and not a plan around it, but the progress of what we're doing. That's the one issue. But the second issue, which has had a major impact here, is the court recording technology that has affected many courts and many of the cases that led to the backlog that we have. And that had to do with the problems that are associated with SITA, State Information Technology Agency, which generally has created many problems for us that whenever we require services, new contracts and all that, we have to go through processes that sometimes are impossible. And we have to ask Treasury to assist us. And Treasury has come on board to at least assist us with a possible 1 year deviation to follow a route of a single source for purposes of the court recording technology. And we'll immediately then be getting a sense of the number of cases that are sitting all over the country and in specific courts, and we'll be working on it as a matter of priority, and hope that in a space of 3 to 6 months, we can do more than 50% of those backlogs. So those are the two issues that I thought I should reflect here and say commit ourselves to attending to those specific issues, particularly the backlogs of sexual offences. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I think we'll work with the Secretariat and then ensure that we get all the issues that were not answered in this meeting that were posed, for them to be prepared, and then you get all the detailed responses to those. But also we'll work with the department, ensuring that we get a more concrete progress on implementation, where they would not, they'll go less about what their plans are, what their mission is, how they are put together, and so on, but talk to us about exactly what is happening. Are we getting value for the money? We certainly have to do that. It would be incomplete and less honest for us to say that we got what we wanted in this meeting. We've got glimpses of what we're looking for, and therefore we've got to have such a follow-up to get to the bottom of all of these issues. And perhaps that is also going to give us more time as members to reflect on the issues that have been put forward here. With that, I want to ask that we adjourn the meeting at this point.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay, Chairperson.
Thank you, sir. God bless.
Thank you, members.
Thank you.